October 2025, a streak of light cutting through the Martian sky moved faster than anything the red planet had ever seen. 60 km/s, silent, precise, and deliberate. For a few seconds, NASA's Perseverance rover caught it in the distance before its night sky cameras went dark. Then, without warning, every orbiter monitoring the flyby of 3 Atlas, the mysterious interstellar visitor, stopped transmitting raw data. The silence was immediate, the timing impossible to ignore. When the first unofficial frames leaked, showing a faint emerald flash just above the horizon, the scientific world froze. No comet should move like that, and no ordinary object should glow without a trace of carbon or water vapor. Something had happened in those missing frames. Something no one at NASA, ESA, or even the James Webb Telescope was ready to explain. And what the next images revealed would change everything we thought we knew about interstellar visitors. It began with a single amateur astronomer, Stephen Burns, who posted a 9-minute time-lapse stitched from Perseverance's public image archive. The sequence showed a razor-thin streak slicing across the Martian sky, moving at 60 km/s, far beyond the speed of any known meteor or artifact. The alignment matched perfectly with the predicted path off 3 Atlas during its closest approach. Within hours, the footage went viral. Analysts across the globe rushed to verify or debunk it, stacking frames, cross-referencing timestamps, and comparing star catalogs. Some confirmed the streak, others dismissed it as noise, but one anomaly kept returning. Afferent green flash captured at exactly 00003 UTC, too bright, too sharp, and too synchronized to be a glitch. The debate fractured into chaos. Was it a chemical emission, a cosmic ray, or something that Perseverance had caught only for a heartbeat? Something deliberately moving through the Martian night? As speculation grew, one question echoed through observatories and control rooms alike. If this was truly 3 Atlas, then why had every official data channel gone silent at that exact moment? Normally, Mars orbiter data floods public archives within days. This time nothing came. The Mars Reconnaissance Orbiter, the Trace Gas Orbiter, and Mars Express, all confirmed to have observed the flyby, went completely quiet. No raw images, no preliminary calibration files, no telemetry, only vague statements about ongoing data verification. Inside JPL, imaging teams worked under intense scrutiny. For a target moving at interstellar velocity, even a fraction off a pixel's error could fabricate false fragments or phantom jets. Every image had to be hand-checked. Every cosmic ray strike manually flagged. But the real reason for the delay was far stranger. Internal memos later revealed that multiple instruments had recorded objects near 3I Atlas that appeared to move in perfect synchronization. Small, faint companions trailing behind it in tight formation. The motion wasn't random. The geometry was precise. Some engineers called them debris fields. Others whispered another word, probes. And as the Mars data backlog deepened, the only telescope still watching was the James Webb, waiting for the moment the interstellar visitor emerged from Mars' shadow. When partial spectral readings finally reached Earth, they deepened the mystery instead of solving it. Normally, Acomet's green glow is the signature off-to-carbon, molecules of C2 excited bison light. But the spectral fingerprint from Mars orbiters told a different story. There was no dicarbon. Instead, the data showed abnormally high levels of carbon dioxide, nickel, and cyanogen, a chemical blend no comet in our solar system has ever displayed. Even more perplexing was the ratio of nickel-taurin reversed with nickel dominating by an order of magnitude. Planetary chemists tried to fit the readings into existing models and failed. Some suggested exotic formation zones in interstellar space. Others proposed contamination from unknown alloys. But the green glow remained unexplained. How could light behave as though carbon was burning when the carbon wasn't there? It was a paradox that defied every known rule of quantum physics. Unless the glow itself wasn't chemical at all, unless it was something else, a signal masquerading as light. Then came the images that broke the model completely. Mars Express and the Trace Gas Orbiter both recorded something that no comet should ever produce. A jet of material blasting toward the sun, not away from it. A forward jet. Dust models collapsed under the data. The jet structure was too narrow, its brightness gradient too steep, and its geometry too perfect. It was as though the object was propelling itself rather than reacting to solar heat. Worse, despite the visible outgassing, 3 Atlas's trajectory didn't change at all. Its path remained gravitationally perfect, showing no measurable deviation from its predicted course. That meant one thing. Whatever it was ejecting wasn't pushing it off balance. The object was too dense, too massive, too stable. Calculations placed its mass at more than 10 billion tons, far heavier than any known comet, and more akin to a metallic asteroid. As the data poured in, the term natural object began to crumble. What if 3 Atlas wasn't shedding dust at all? What if it was activating? As 3 Atlas disappeared behind Mars, a strange phenomenon gripped the deep space network. Engineers monitoring communications from the Martian orbiters began detecting interference, rhythmic pulses embedded deep within the signal noise. At first, they assumed it was an echo caused by solar wind or a frequency overlap from the comet's charged tail, but the rhythm was too consistent, too deliberate. Every 22 seconds, a faint spike repeated across multiple channels, identical on both NASA's and ESA's receivers. It wasn't strong enough to be a transmission, but it wasn't random either. The pattern seemed to mirror the comet's orbital motion, as if the object were responding to its own trajectory. Then, just as suddenly as it appeared, the interference vanished. Mission Control described it as electromagnetic resonance. Others called it a hum. But those who listened to the filtered playback described something far more unnerving. A low mechanical vibration that seemed to accelerate slightly before cutting to dead silence. That was when the James Webb Telescope, positioned millions of kilometers away at range point 2, turned its instruments directly toward the region of space where the signal had originated. When the first long-exposure images from the James Webb Telescope arrived, scientists expected the usual, a faint blurred shape, maybe some faint dust trails left behind the comet. What they saw instead left even the most stoic astronomers speechless. The infrared data showed 3 distinct thermal signatures, not one. The first, an elongated core matching 3 Atlas's expected position. The second and third, smaller and cooler, flanking the primary nucleus at equal distances. They moved in perfect formation, adjusting position slightly in correlation with Mars's magnetic field. The symmetry was unnatural, almost engineered. When color composites were rendered, faint arcs of ionized material appeared connecting the 3 points, filaments that flickered like electrical currents. In visible light, the glow was faint green, but in infrared, the objects pulsed red-hot in exact synchronization with the 22-second frequency earlier detected in radio data. No comet had ever exhibited behavior like this. To some, it looked like controlled stabilization, to others like propulsion. And yet, none of the objects appeared to be accelerating. They were holding position as though orbiting something unseen. Webb spectrographs soon revealed an even deeper enigma. The presence of pure nickel vapor. Metallic atoms heated to extreme temperatures, existing in quantities far exceeding what any natural body could produce. Nickel, dense and unyielding, should not vaporize this close to Mars. And yet, its spectral line dominated the readings. Alongside it were trace elements of cobalt and an unknown compound emitting faint but perfectly spaced emission peaks too evenly structured to be random. The data resembled the harmonic pattern of a technological process, not a geological one. It was as if the object was refining itself, reorganizing its surface composition under the heat of the sun. Planetary scientists proposed wild hypotheses from metallic crystallization to magnetic shielding. But none could explain why 3 Atlas's light was modulating in ways consistent with encoded data. The object's brightness was no longer constant. It was blinking like a beacon. When the intervals of those flashes were compared to the earlier electromagnetic hum detected during the Mars flyby, the results matched perfectly. The pulse weren't just energy. They were information. As the James Webb continued to track the object, the smaller companion fragments, the 2 faint signatures flanking the main nucleus, began to drift outward. Slowly, deliberately, they aligned themselves with the plane of the ecliptic, forming a straight line between Mars, the Sun, and the object's path. The formation held for hours before fading from view. Astrophysicists called it coincidence, a gravitational fluke. But the precision of the geometry was impossible to ignore. Every alignment corresponded with the same pulse frequency, the same repeating modulation in light. It was as though 3 Atlas had synchronized itself with the architecture of the solar system. The comet's green glow intensified, spreading in a narrow beam pointing directly toward the sun, while the filaments connecting the companion fragments shimmered one last time before vanishing. The data stream from Webb abruptly ended as solar interference spiked. And then silence. For the first time in weeks, the skies went dark. No signal, no light, just the memory of a perfect alignment. And the unsettling realization that whatever 3 Atlas had done near Mars, it had only been the beginning. The world waited, instruments idling insolence, predictions running cold. The one day later, the James Webb Telescope detected something. A faint pulse, often flared light emerging from the darkness. At first it appeared as a simple flare, but within minutes, it stabilized into a continuous signature, brighter and sharper than ever before. The object had survived perihelion, but it was different now. Its brightness no longer matched a normal comet's reflective curve. It was amplifying, radiating far more energy than it received. The spectral ratios had changed too. The once dominant nickel lines were now accompanied by new, unidentified emissions, narrow, perfectly spaced, like harmonics from a vibrating string. The frequency matched the 22-con rhythm that had haunted every observation since the Mars flyby. But this time there was something else layered beneath it, a secondary pulse, shorter, faster, and hauntingly familiar. When engineers overlapped the new data with the previous signal logs, they realized it was an echo, a reflected version of the very transmissions Earth had been sending into space for decades. It was as if 3I Atlas had listened and was now replying. Soon after the object's reappearance, radio observatories across the globe began picking up disturbances in the hydrogen line, 1420 MHz, the same frequency used in the historic WOW signal from 1977. The pulse repeated at precise intervals too deliberate to dismiss. When decoded, its harmonic structure revealed a pattern eerily similar to the comet's orbit, a spiral drawn in binary, replicating its flyby path around Mars. It wasn't just broadcasting randomly. It was transmitting its own history back too. The realization hit like a shockwave through the scientific community. The idea that an interstellar object could record, store, and retransmit electromagnetic information defied all known physics. And yet, the James Webb data confirmed the impossible. The light from 3 Atlas carried modulation signatures consistent with encoded data structured, ordered, and intentionally embedded within its infrared emissions. For days, astronomers debated whether to send a response, but the ethical dilemma divided the community. Was this a discovery or a test? The hum continued, unwavering, looping the same signal over and over as if waiting for acknowledgement. As the signal strengthened, the Webb telescope's polarization sensors detected something even more unnerving. The light from 3I Atlas was now polarized against the solar wind. Normally, particles from the sun scatter light chaotically, but in this case, the alignment was reversed as though the object was bending photons to follow an unseen magnetic lattice. The result was a beam of light that stayed coherent over millions of kilometers like a laser spanning the solar system. Scientists tried to model the effect, but no simulation matched the precision observed. The polarization wasn't random. It rotated at fixed intervals that aligned perfectly with Mars' rotation and Earth's orbital position. It was as though the object was synchronizing itself with both planets, weaving a triangle of resonance across space. Amateur astronomers began to notice strange reflections in the night sky. Faint ripples of green light sweeping across the horizon every time 3 Atlas completed one of its polarization cycles. The effect was visible from both hemispheres, lasting seconds before vanishing. To some, it looked like a communication beam. To others, a countdown. Hours later, the impossible happened. The James Webb telescope recorded a sudden acceleration in 3I Atlas motion, a deviation of less than 0.01% from its projected course, but one that can't be explained by gravity or solar radiation. For the first time, the object had moved under its own power. The acceleration was faint, gradual, and incredibly precise, like a ship adjusting its trajectory. What made it even stranger was the direction. Instead of continuing its outbound path into interstellar space, 3I Atlas had curved slightly inward, aligning its vector with Earth's orbital plane. The adjustment was microscopic but intentional. And as it made that shift, the rhythmic signal changed too. The 22-second pulse began to slow down, 23 seconds, then 24, as if matching Earth's time dilation, adjusting for our planet's motion. The entire solar system seemed to pulse with it, a resonance that spread across electromagnetic fields, radio frequencies, and even seismic instruments. No one could explain how or why, but every system sensitive to electromagnetic fluctuation, from satellites to underground sensors, registered the same pattern. The signal wasn't coming from space anymore. It was passing through us. At first it was subtle. Small variations in the upper atmosphere, faint flashes detected only by high-altitude observatories. But within days the phenomenon became undeniable. A pulsating green aurora appeared over regions where no auroras had ever been seen before. Equatorial zones, deserts, and mid-latitudes bathed in spectral light that shimmered every 24 seconds, matching the exact rhythm of 3I Atlas's pulse. Air traffic control towers began reporting strange electromagnetic interference at the same intervals, and civilian communication satellites experienced brief but synchronized drops in transmission. Every instance corresponded perfectly with the object's updated orbital position. The glow intensified night after night, and when scientists compared atmospheric readings, they discovered something chilling. The light wasn't coming from the atmosphere. It was being projected onto it as if from space itself. High-resolution telescopes tracking the source traced the beam's origin not to the sun, nor to any known celestial reflection, but to a narrow cone of energy emitted directly from 3I Atlas, now positioned in perfect alignment with Earth's magnetic equator. The comet wasn't just passing by anymore. It was targeting the planet with mathematical precision. Governments around the world mobilized in silence. Observatories, defense satellites, and radio telescopes were all repurposed into a single global network tasked with monitoring 3 Atlas. The object had become too organized, too deliberate. But then a new anomaly emerged one noon could explain. Deep-sea cables, electrical grids, and even underground data servers began to emit a faint electromagnetic hum. It wasn't noise, but structure repeating in harmonic sequences identical to those observed in the comet's light. Devices across the planet started syncing unintentionally, clocks drifting into perfect rhythm with a 24-second cycle. Even the atomic clocks aboard GPS satellites' precise TOA fraction of a microcon began to tick in unison with the pulses. It was Asta the planet itself had become a receiver, its entire infrastructure resonating to the frequency of 3I Atlas. Engineers tried to isolate the cause, but no signal source could be found. Every attempt to jam or filter the interference failed. The phenomenon wasn't entering through the airwaves or power grids. It was embedded in the electromagnetic field of Earth itself. The planet was no longer observing the object. It was participating in whatever it had started. Then came the observation that changed everything. The James Webb Space Telescope, focusing on the region surrounding 3 Atlas, recorded a faint halo of light extending outward in geometric arcs. When processed, the data revealed that the arcs formed an unmistakable pattern, a perfect equilateral triangle connecting 3 bodies, 3I Atlas, Earth, and Mars. Within this triangle, filaments of charged particles shimmered in synchronization, forming luminous pathways across the void. The alignment wasn't random. It corresponded exactly to the same coordinates as the 1977 WO signal, the mysterious radio burst that had once captured humanity's imagination. When astronomers overlaid the data, the direction of the WOW signal and the position of 3 Atlas intersected within less than a degree. It was a statistical impossibility. The realization sent shock waves through the scientific community. The comet's trajectory wasn't arbitrary. It had followed a precise interstellar corridor, one pointing to a sign allocation we had detected nearly half a century ago. And now with the triangle fully formed, energy readings from all 3 points began to rise exponentially. The network of light wasn't static anymore. It was activating. The steady 24 second on pulse fragmented into multiple frequencies, splitting into harmonics that climbed higher and higher until they merged into a single sustained tone. All around the world, radio telescopes recorded the same event. A global resonance vibrating through every sensor, every magnetic field, every conductive surface. The auroras turned blinding white for 13 seconds and then vanished entirely. For the first time since its discovery, 3 Atlas stopped emitting light. The object spectrum flattened into perfect silence. But when the James Webb Telescope captured the next frame, the image made no sense. The once bright green object had transformed into a dark silhouette surrounded by a faint ring of ionized gas, a perfect sphere of absence. No reflection, no emission, just a void absorbing every wavelength around it. Ground-based telescopes confirmed the same. 3 Atlas was no longer reflecting sunlight. It was invisible, yet still there, distorting starlight like a gravitational lens. It was as if the comet had shed its disguise, revealing something vast and unexplainable beneath. And then, at exactly midnight UTC, every instrument that had been tracking the object, from the James Webb to Earth's smallest amateur telescope, received the same reading, a sudden surge of energy originating not from space, but from deep beneath Earth's crust. For months, scientists had described 3 Atlas as a visitor, a silent wanderer from another star. But as its glow vanished and the world's instruments trembled with the final pulse, that illusion died. Whatever this object was, it hadn't come to visit. It had come to awaken. The surge detected beneath Earth's crust was no accident. Seismic readings across the planet began to oscillate in perfect rhythm with the same harmonics that once pulsed from the comet. Deep radar scans detected reflections from unknown densities. Vast symmetrical structures buried miles below, pulsing faintly in sync with the fading echo from space. For the first time, the signal wasn't just passing through the planet. It was coming from within. The James Webb telescope, locked on the dark silhouette where 3 Atlas had once been, recorded one last image before its sensors overloaded. The object was no longer a point in the sky. It was a halo, an expanding sphere of light curling inward on itself, folding like a reflection collapsing into a mirror. Inside that void, spectrographs detected something no one could explain. Patterns of human radio emission stretched and repeated as if the comet were replaying every broadcast Earth had ever sent into the cosmos. Every word, every signal, every message we had ever released into the dark was coming back, distorted, amplified, and woven into the pulse. Then came silence, not absence. Silence with structure. The background noise of the universe dimmed. Cosmic radiation dropped. Even the random hum of interstellar space flattened into stillness as though reality itself was holding its breath. And just before the James Webb's imaging array went blind from overexposure, the halo shifted one last time, forming a single unmistakable shape, a spiral. The same triporal geometry that had appeared across the orbits of Mars, Earth, and the Sun, the same pattern carved into the ancient stones of our own planet long before Webb knew to look up. What followed wasn't an explosion. It was a reflection. A cascade of light that rippled through the solar system, invisible to the human eye, but burned forever into the instruments that captured it. And when it faded, the void where 3I Atlas had been was empty. Nothing remained. Noticed, no trail, not even gravitational residue. Only the pulse endured, faint but eternal, embedded in the electromagnetic hum of our own planet. Now the world listens. The hum is still there. Deep, low, repeating every 24 seconds. Buried beneath the noise of our machines and oceans. Most can't hear it, but those who can describe it the same way. Not mechanical, not random, but alive. Maybe 3 Atlas wasn't a comet at all. Maybe it was a message, a map, or even a memory. Maybe it wasn't coming to us. Maybe it was reminding us, because the truth is terrifyingly simple. The signal never left. It's still here. It's been here all along. So what do you believe? Was 3I Atlas a natural wanderer? Or the universe finally answering a question we were never meant to ask? Let us know what you think in the comments below. And if this story made you question everything you thought you knew about the cosmos, subscribe, turn on notifications, and share this video with someone who still believes space is silent. Because maybe it isn't silence at all. Maybe it's waiting for us to answer.